This is a brand new Arylic LP20 wireless music streamer. We're going to unbox it real quick, go through its features. I'm going to give it plenty of listening time, and I'm also going to directly compare it to the LP10, which is its little brother. The LP10 is just under $100. The LP20 is now just under $200. So what do you get for that double in price, the extra $100? Well, in short, a lot of features. And I think for most people, even if you use this as just a standard transport, you're probably going to want to upgrade. Now, I don't have any problems with the LP10 per se, but this is a lot more flexible. For example, this is extremely limited. You've got a USB input, analog line in, analog line out, and an optical input. That's it. Notably missing for my use case is a coax output. That's what I prefer to use with my system. This guy fixes that and adds a lot more. We have dual band Wi-Fi, which is great for streaming lossless audio, which can get very large. Now, the biggest quality difference is the DAC. This guy uses an all-in-one processor, does everything on one chip, and it does everything mediocre. If you're just using it as a transport, just using that digital out, it functions just fine. It takes everything in, it spits everything out. You're not processing anything on it. However, if you have just a regular old receiver, I'm talking the stuff you can go to Best Buy, pick up from Onkyo or Denon or Marantz, any of those lower end stuff, not separates, you're probably going to enjoy an upgrade using the built-in DAC here. It's an AKM 4490, which is a very decent middle of the road DAC. And that is a huge difference coming from just an integrated chip like this. This is bare bones sound. Is it going to compare to a top level hi-fi system? No, absolutely not. You're absolutely going to want to use one of the digital outs and go into your better DAC if that's what you've got. But this is going to be a big upgrade for a lot of people at this price point. We have a sub out. Now this may be like the LA50 that I recently reviewed, and there may not be AI pass on the mains, which would mean there's no base management, there's no time alignment or anything like that, which in my opinion makes it pretty useless. If that's the case, we'll verify. Here's our coax out. We can come in directly from an external computer DAC. We have a 12-volt trigger out, and they do note in the photo that it is a TRRS connection, not a TRS, so bear that in mind if you have to connect something. Supports full quality lossless on all its inputs and streaming services, and it includes all the streaming services. This is not the whole list. They support everything out there, right out of the box, including all the Connect services. I'll be testing using Qobuz Connect. You can stream anything from your network, or connect any USB devices, or connect directly from your phone using Google Casting or AirPlay 2. And we've got a dedicated remote in the box. The analog line in has a 2-volt RMS max, just for your gain staging planning. And the subwoofer out is also a 2-volt RMS out. Now this says crossover frequency 250 Hertz. I suspect that is not a crossover because it's the same wording they used on the LA50. That is probably just a low pass at 250. It's listing a signal to noise ratio above 110 dB with crosstalk above 100. And an average, but pretty typical THD of 0.1%. Power supply is nothing special, your typical phone dongle. 5-volt, 2 amp. Now just from this front cover, I can tell they heavily borrowed their design from the LA50 because the front looks pretty much identical. Here's our front panel, again, just about identical. If you didn't have that there, you probably wouldn't know. This lights up when it's on. We've got a click button here for turning it off, selecting your input, which will change the color, and adjusting volume. And there are detents here. It's pretty easy to spin, but it's not free floating. This is just your IR input sensor. Rubber strips here on the bottom for grip. And I know that this is going to have the same problem the LA50 did. When this is on any kind of slick surface, pushing this button is going to push the whole device because it weighs almost nothing. So if you do intend on using this button for control, you're probably going to want to stick this down with some 3M tape or something like that. That'll fix that issue. Here's our back panel, nice and clean. Optical in and optical out, coax out, subwoofer out, analog in and out, trigger, reset button, USB, Ethernet, and USB-C in just for power. And here's your size difference between the little brother LP10 and the new LP20. Completely different. Inside we have a basic but comprehensive manual. There's really not much to say about this, and it's online as a PDF as well. You can download the Go Control app, which allows you to directly control the volume, change the songs and that sort of thing if you don't want to use your direct streamer app, which is what I choose to do. You'll also be able to access all your different settings like your EQs and such from the Go Control app. So definitely install that. Firmware updates are also through the app over the air. You just have to be on a network. Here's our USB cable for power, and they've included a very basic but functional analog RCA connection cable. If you do plan on using your analog inputs like this, I strongly advise you to get a good shielded pair. This will make sound, but it is in no way going to be the best kind of analog quality possible. Standard power wall wart, and again, borrowed from the LA50, the standard remote control here that comes with lots of different things from China, and it just takes a couple AAA batteries. All right, I'm gonna get it connected, fire it up, start listening, and I'll tell you what I think. So after putting many hours on this new streamer, I'm gonna structure this review into 2 parts. I'm gonna run you through everything I've been doing, everything I've found, and then we'll try to figure out who the target market is. Spoiler alert, I think it's gonna be most people. Let's fire it up. It's in standby right now. Comes on very quickly. You hear a little bit of a relay click. Get the little animation, and we're up. It's about a 15-20 second boot time. Depends on if it has to connect to Wi-Fi or not. I'm on Wi-Fi right now, just because I'm in my back 2-channel listening room, and I don't have Ethernet on this wall. If you're connected via Ethernet, it shaves a few seconds off that boot time. Now, I've been testing this both here in this room, because I think this is gonna be where the real target market lives. If you have an entry-level to mid-range receiver, this is simply a plug-in audio upgrade, and it has to do with 2 things: the quality of the DAC built in, and the availability of all the high quality lossless streaming formats that it supports. So as I mentioned, it uses the same Go Control app that every other Arylic streamer uses. You click on the device, you can go up here to its settings. There aren't that many for this, but I'm very happy to say they all work, including the LED on and off, which is my preferred mode. And I'm very happy to see that there are simply no bugs. We'll turn it back on for the review. So first, I tested this in the living room theater, which uses a world-class processor and a very top-level DAC in the Acurus Muse. I connected both the analog out, which are using the DAC built into the Arylic, and the digital out, which will then use the DAC built into the Muse for a direct comparison. And no shock, it is not a world-class DAC. It's not supposed to be. It's $200 for the whole thing. There's simply no comparison in the soundstage width, depth, detail, bass, dynamics. Everything is improved. But that is to be expected. So I brought it in here where I have a Yamaha Avantage. Now, admittedly, this is on the upper end of the typical consumer DAC. This is a very good model. This is going to be slightly better than your Denons, your Marantzas, certainly your Onkyo's, your Sony's, your Pioneers, anything like that. If you can get it at Best Buy, this is going to be better sound. But here's the really cool part. First of all, I was A/B testing simply by connecting to 2 different inputs and just swapping on the remote. There's no input leveling per channel, per input on this, so everything was absolutely identical. All my listening is done in pure direct mode, so I only listen to this, and this just does 2-channel duty. There's no video or anything like that. It just sits here being a preamp and amp. That's all this box is doing. So the analogs are going in, right into its DAC, right in through its amplifier and out to the speakers. The optical is going right into the preamp, into the amp, and out to the speakers. It's as close a comparison as can possibly be made. And the really good news is about 90% of the songs I listen to, I've got playlists with hundreds of songs. I ran through everything I'm familiar with. 90% of the time, can't hear a bit of difference. They both sound really good, no complaints. And then about 10% of the other times, it is subtle at best. And the biggest difference I can hear between the two, it's only, like I said, on very few songs, but it's in the bass. Specifically, the quantity and the attack of bass. And I'll give you one example that's very clear. Bruno Mars' Chunky. I'm sure there's synth tones, but it sounds like bass guitar. As it's, I'll say, plucking, the attack and the actual impact of those notes is very palpably different. And I can feel that difference in my chest. So it's not just, oh, I think that sounds louder. You can feel it differently just by switching from one input to the next. But if I wasn't sitting here switching back and forth, I wouldn't remember which was which. But it is clear when you do just go back and forth. So I can confidently say that you are going to be very happy if you use the digital or the analog outs and use its built-in DAC. They made a great choice with this particular chip. Soundstage is equally impressive. For this kind of price point, I have absolutely no complaints. It's a beautiful little box. Now for pure transport, you're using your own DAC. Again, couldn't be happier. It's fast, it's reliable. I didn't have any glitches. Nothing. Switching between tracks, changing between different formats, starting, stopping, pausing, nothing. I couldn't get it to hiccup, and it's dead quiet, dead silent. Now, as I suspected, the lightness of the box and the lack of any real adhesion down to the bottom does make pushing the knob impossible. You do have to hold it with two hands to do anything like that, and I just changed my inputs. You can see it cycles through the colors, as I mentioned earlier, to tell you what inputs you're on. And I want to go to white, that's red, that's yellowish. There we go, back to the streamer, what they call network. But it didn't matter if I'm using Qobuz Connect, if I'm using the Google Cast, if I was using AirPlay, everything sounded and acted just perfectly. And if you have a clean setup like this, there's absolutely no problem using the included analog cable. If you're sticking it in a rack, like I will be in the other room, I'm not going to be using the analog in the other room, but if you are, that's when you'd want to upgrade to a better shielded analog cable. But something like this, absolutely fine out of the box. You don't have to spend a penny. Everything's good. And if you've got a Sofa Baton universal remote, I'm just using one of my U3s, their new model, in here as a dedicated control, so I can turn that on and off, set a macro, and do all that. It works perfectly fine out of the box. Same IR codes as the rest of their line, so I don't even need the generic remote it comes with. Now, usually I save the cons for the end of the reviews, but I honestly don't have any. Everything worked. The only thing I can even mention, and it's just a suggestion, and I made the same suggestion about their LA50, is give us real bass management or just remove the subwoofer out. If you are going to connect a subwoofer, do it through your processor so it has actual time aligning and bass management. This, I did try it by the way, this just outputs 250 below to whatever sub you connect it to. You get absolutely no controls over levels or delay or crossover or anything like that. There isn't even a slider for this in the app for the crossover, as they call it. The LA50 gives you a slider for the high pass filter at least, neither of which is useful. I would say just remove the sub out from both of them personally. But it's not a con because you don't have to use it. And frankly, anybody that's going to have a subwoofer, you're going through a processor, let's face it. I don't think very many people are even going to consider using the sub out on the Arylic. So no complaints. If you're interested, I'll put any discount codes I can get for you down below in the comments and descriptions. Let me know if you've got one and what you think, especially compared to anything else like the LP10. If you enjoyed my content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. We'll see you next time.